do you do with threads that snap, and how does it affect the validity of the tzitzis?
Strings that come off should not be disposed of in a disrespectful manner. You should therefore not place them directly into the garbage. Rather, you should place them in a bag and put the bag in the garbage. Some people only place them in shamos, and those that do so are considered praiseworthy.
As far as the validity of the rest of the tzitzis goes, it depends on where and how many strings snap.
If any string snaps up here at the top, between the area of the hole and the first knot, the tzitzis are invalid. If they snap lower down, along the area of the knots and windings, then if it's only one string, it's okay. Whereas, if it's two or more strings, it is invalid. If the strings snap below the area of the windings, in other words, the area of the loose threads here, we have two opinions. One of the Rosh, the other of Rabbeinu Tam. Before we look at these two opinions, a couple of points by way of introduction. First, the 8 strings that hang out from the knots originate from 4 strings that were doubled over. Second, we are going to assume that you made the tzitzis the way it was recommended in our Making Tzitzis video. That means, throughout the time process, you kept the 4 original strings in the same 2 groups. If you did so, then if we could magically color code those strings, they would look something like this. The 4 strings on this side are the other ends of the strings on this side.
With these points in mind, let's go through each of the 2 opinions.
According to the first opinion, that of the Rosh, in order for tzitzis to be kosher, there must remain a minimal length of string on one end of each of the original 4 strands. This minimal amount is known as kedei aniva, enough for a bow, and is the amount of string long enough to be tied around all the underside strings with a slip knot. This works out to be a very small amount, no more than about a centimeter. The authorities say, however, to work with a length of 4 centimeters. Thus, if only one thread snaps, even if it snaps right to the end, the tzitzis are kosher. Why? Because the other end of this snap string, wherever it may be, still has kedei aniva. In fact, even if the other strings are shorter than full length, as long as they are more than kedei aniva, which is about 4 centimeters, the tzitzis are still kosher. If 2, 3, or 4 threads snap, and they are on the same side, the tzitzis are also kosher. And this is even if they snap all the way to the end. Why? Because since you are careful to keep the original strings separate, you know that the strings on this side have their other halves on the other side, and there is still the minimum amount of kedei aniva on one side of each string. Whereas, if 2, 3, or 4 threads snap, and they are on opposite sides, then you're in trouble. Why? Because it is possible that one of the snap strings on this side comes from the original string of one of the snap strings on the opposite side. And that would mean that we don't have a minimum of kedei aniva on one side of each of the original strands, which would render the tzitzis invalid. This is all according to the Rosh's opinion. The second opinion, that of Rabbeinu Tam, is more strict. Rabbeinu Tam's opinion holds that the tzitzis are invalid unless at least 2 of the original 4 strings are complete. In other words, 4 of the 8 hanging threads would need to be 12 finger breadths, or 24 centimeters long. This is in addition to the first opinion's requirement of having kedei aniva on at least one end of the other 2 strings. Thus, if 2 strings snap to less than kedei aniva, the tzitzis are only valid if the other 6 strings are a full 24 centimeters. If 3 strings snapped to be less than 24 centimeters, whether on the same side of the knots or on opposite sides, the tzitzis are invalid, as you no longer have 2 complete threads of the original 4. The final ruling concerning these 2 opinions is that if the tzitzis are kosher according to the Rosh, one may recite a blessing on it, even though the tzitzis are not kosher according to Rabbeinu Tam. However, if another pair of tzitzis is available that is kosher according to Rabbeinu Tam as well, it is preferable to use that pair instead.
While snap strings are all too common, best practice is to keep all the strings intact, if you can pull that off.